Hi everyone, and this is the movie Through a Good Boy. Enjoy watching. A young man moves into a house in the woods with his faithful dog in the remote countryside. The dog tries to protect his owner from a sinister black figure haunting the house. The film begins with the sleeping face of Indy, not a seasoned archaeology professor, but a golden retriever. The dog sleeps at the feet of his owner Todd. Waking up, the dog looks around the room with the TV on. He doesn't immediately notice that his owner is sitting motionless, with blood dripping from his mouth onto the smartphone. Having failed to reach her brother, Todd's sister Vera enters the room at this point. A flashback to Indy's life begins, showing how as a small puppy, he fell into the hands of his owner and lived happily ever after. The film ends with Indy meeting Todd outside the hospital after he is examined for the initial incident. Soon after this incident, he leaves with the dog for the remote woods, to a house left by his late grandfather, while the boy opens the gate in the rain to continue on. Indy sits in the car, admiring the view from the rear window, tinted and alarming scarlet. As they roll along a country road in the rain, Vera calls she is worried about her brother's departure, especially since there are scary legends about his grandfather's house. Supposedly it is haunted, but this doesn't stop Todd eager to enjoy the peace and quiet. Arriving at the house, he calls the dog along. Reluctantly, Indy climbs out of the comfortable car into unfamiliar surroundings. Together they walk to the house. He opens the lock, securing the chain door, while the dog looks around anxiously. Inside there is chaos, which the dog generally dislikes. In the flashes of lightning outside, he examines the interiors. Indy's attention is drawn to the door to the basement, accessed by a staircase. The owner is fixing the electrical panel there, having restored the power. The boy and the dog go to the upstairs bedroom, where they turn on a VCR with recordings of the grandfather who used to live there. He calls his sister to tell her he's arrived safely. Meanwhile, Indy's attention is drawn to something in the hallway. The dog goes out to take another look around. A thorough search leads him down to the front door, and then back to the cluttered bedroom closet. Suddenly he hears a voice calling for a bandit, then sees a shadow in the corner. It grows. Indy's anxious observation is interrupted by the owner, peering into the closet with a flashlight. He dispels the darkness and calls his dog to bed. In the morning, Todd and Indy go for a walk through the wooded area, wandering through the withered grass and bare trees. The boy leads his furry friend to the local cemetery, where his relatives, including his grandfather, are buried, while his owner goes outside to take a leak. The dog sits diligently, unaware of a silhouette creeping up behind him. The silhouette, clad in Lesh's protective suit, turns out to be Richard, a neighbor who knew both Lesha and his grandfather. He hunts foxes and warns the boy that the forest is full of traps, so Indy shouldn't accidentally fall into them. The neighbor also says that he was the one who found the deceased grandfather's body, and that his banded dog has since disappeared. While the two men are talking, the dog climbs into the trunk of a fallen tree, from which two glittering eyes glare at him. It could be a hiding fox or a ghost. That evening, Richard and his pet visit Richard to pick up the generator. They walk home in the rain, chatting with Vera along the way. The sister is worried about her brother and superstitiously worries that something is wrong with their grandfather's house. However, the boy doesn't take her words seriously. While he starts the generator in the pouring rain, Indy stares at the nearby bushes. They look suspicious. Then the couple goes inside to watch TV and devour snacks. That night, Indy dreams of being in the basement, with a black hand reaching out to him. Waking up, the dog looks at photographs of the previous tenant, including a photo of Bandit, a similar retriever, with a red bandana instead of a collar. In the morning, while the owner pours food into the dog's bowl, Indy sniffs the basement door, the back of which is covered in scratches, as if someone really wanted to get out. After feeding the dog, the owner goes about his business. Indy runs to the window to patiently await his return. As darkness falls, the dog hears sounds in the basement, through the ventilation vents, and then sees the bandit in the room. The previous pet leads the new tenant up the stairs to the second floor. There, Indy finds a red bandana, the former tenant's trademark, under a closet. Sniffing, he uncovers the bandit's story. Some evil shadow stalked his owner, and then a black hand reached for the dog himself, leaving only drops of blood on the floor. Panicked, Indy crawls out from under the closet and sees someone coming up the stairs. He hides under the bed in the bedroom, where he sees his owner enter the room. Having returned home, however, the guy isn't too happy to see the dog again. It's all due to a painful cough and wounds on his hand. Covered with bandages, Indy sees a black stain spreading, after which his owner sends him off the bed to sleep on the floor. In the morning, the dog runs through the garage, to run through the woods, reaching the cemetery. He wanders among the graves when he notices an approaching silhouette, but it's only a dream waking up. The dog sees traces of dirt on the floor and hears a steady noise below. Coming downstairs, he finds his owner in a daze, banging his head against the door. Touching his hand, Indy recognizes Todd. Then he peers into the basement. Returning to the bedroom, his owner turns on the TV. The dog watches him cough sitting on the bed. He's getting worse in the morning. Todd receives a call from Vera, but his brother rudely tells her not to bother him with trivial matters. He didn't go to the Outback to be annoyed by people there. At this moment, Indy sees the garage door open by itself. Looking around, the dog finds a chair, which again brings back memories of the bandit. He sat in front of a sick grandfather who was in a daze while a long black arm reached out from the basement after him. Realizing what he saw, Indy couldn't help but pee right in the garage, unaware of something moving behind him. A short while later, he finds his pet in the basement, covered in mud from who knows where. He's trembling behind the front door. The guy takes him to the bathroom to clean him off, but in the process he begins coughing up blood, splattering the dog in the bathroom. After washing away the traces of the illness, he goes to the hospital for another checkup, taking Indy with him upon arrival. It turns out that the disease is in an advanced stage, so Todd isn't even accepted for an experimental treatment to test a new drug. A disillusioned man decides to turn away from conventional medicine and toward an alternative form. According to a neighbor, medicinal herbs have never grown in their area. But this doesn't stop the sick man. He places plants throughout the bedroom. Meanwhile, Indy is troubled by the manifestation of an evil entity. He sees a black man appearing in the flickering candle light when the man disappears. The dog goes to comfort his owner, who is crying on the bed before bed. Indy lies down on the bed next to Todd, but he puts the dog down on the floor, lying on the rug. He sees someone moving in the next room. Following the stranger down to the first floor, the dog notices a strange shimmer from the open basement door. Peeking through the doorway, he sees his owner lying below. Suddenly, the man runs up the stairs on all fours. Waking from a nightmare in the bedroom, Indy feels a hand grab him and drag him under the bed. But this is another nightmare. In reality, the owner, having collapsed on the floor in his sleep, simply hugs him. Then they both see a shadow in the next room, but they don't dare check. The owner strokes Indy's head, but suddenly his hand turns black. Frightened, the dog bites it. The man leaves the bedroom to treat the wound when a mysterious entity stares at him from the closet. The dog watches as his owner collapses and runs to help, but the door slams in his face. After barking at a silly piece of wood for appearance's sake, Indy looks around and sees an open window in the bathroom. He climbs through it onto the porch roof, from where he collapses right in the thicket of bushes in front of the house. Having recovered, the dog runs as fast as he can through the pre-dawn woods to the neighbor's house to call for help. Looking back to see if the black man is following, Indy runs toward Richard, but is caught in one of his fox traps, a tightening noose. He tries unsuccessfully to free himself while a blurry, dark silhouette approaches from the trees. Someone bends over the defenseless dog. The stranger turns out to be the dog. Now awake, he scolds his furry friend for running away, then ties him to a chain near the house. The owner disappears into the nearby bushes, but not for long. He returns with a bowl and a bag of food left outside. The faithful dog sits in the rain on the roof of the kennel, from where he has a better view of the bedroom window where he is feeling up. When the outline of the man disappears from the opening, and he surveys the night surroundings, he sees eyes glittering in the darkness. Their owner is a wild fox hanging around nearby. As the dog stares at him, the black man creeps up behind him. Indy hides from an evil entity in a kennel, which turns out to be smeared on the inside. From there, the dog looks up at the bedroom window, where his owner is getting sicker and sicker. When a black hand emerges from the ground, the dog runs outside. A metal chain prevents him from hiding under the house. The black stranger pulls the dog toward him. Then, Indy uses a cunning battering ram. He accelerates and crashes into the kennel, overturning it with his weight. He manages to break the anchor, holding the chain out of the brittle wood, after which the dog returns to the house. He stares at the closed entrance, wondering how to get inside, but then an unknown force opens the basement, followed by the lower door. Descending the rain-soaked steps, Indy stumbles upon the withered skeleton of a dog with a red bandana, his grandfather's missing bandit. Meanwhile, in the bedroom, he gasps for breath suddenly. He feels better hearing a noise. He gets out of bed. The candles in the room go out one by one. Only flashes of lightning illuminate the room, and the approaching dirty footprints on the floor. Frightened, he wants to close the door, but an unknown force throws him back. Then he lights a lantern, dispelling the darkness. Indy, who has crawled through the basement, runs into the light. The dog comforts his beloved owner. He is glad to see him and apologizes for leaving him outside. However, while petting his pet, the man notices a terrible detail: his own dead body on the bed, with pill bottles scattered nearby. He barely has time to realize that he has died and become a ghost when the black man appears behind him. Grabbing Todd, he drags him into the basement. Indy runs after his master's spirit, but encounters a locked door. The dog then bravely leaps out the window, breaking the glass, to enter the basement from the street, as he did earlier in the basement. The dog sees the entrance to a cave, from which Todd's terrified scream is heard. Indy rushes after his master into the unknown. After a while, he pulls him out, covered in mud. But then a black man enters through the door to finish the job. He disintegrates into a liquid that covers Todd's body, like Venom, only without the superpowers and extra voice in his head. A devoted Indy looks at his slimy owner. Todd tells him he's a good boy, but he can't save him, telling his pet to stay. Todd's ghost melts before his eyes, receding into the darkness of the afterlife. A sad Indy is left alone in the basement, locked in. Like the bandit before him, the dog sits down, obeying his master's final command: stay here. His faith saves him from starvation. Arriving to check on her brother, the girl opens the basement entrance. The good boy runs upstairs to meet his new owner and find salvation. The film ends with his car ride out of the forest and into a new life.